It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at Nope, got that wrong. I know I changed it, and I have to remember this. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. That's randywangradio@gmail.com. And follow me on my YouTube channel at Randy Wang Radio. See the video I just put out, my top 10 favorite margaritas in Santa Fe, because I just spent a week in Santa Fe. I am finally back in Los Angeles after a week of not having to drive. And if you know anything about me, you know the one thing that I can't stand about this city is the traffic, is the suffering daily on the 405. And I don't know if this was on purpose or it was emblematic, but my first day back, my first day on the 405 commuting, I figure, it's a Monday. Mondays are usually kind of light on the way in. It'll ease my way back into this. And so far, so good. Just getting on the streets to go to the post office, drop off a package, go to Trader Joe's to pick up some laundry detergent. Not a whole lot of traffic. And then as I try to get to the entrance to the 101 to eventually get me to the 405, I see the usual irritation. I see the usual traffic. And it just starts to depress me. But whatever. I got to have a week off. I didn't have to drive for a week. I felt special. Then I get to the Sepulveda Pass. And even though I always know where I'm going to the same place every single day. I'm curious. I type in on my Apple CarPlay with Apple Maps the address to the radio station. And it gave me an ETA when I first left the house of about an hour, which door to door is about what you'd expect. On Mondays, sometimes it's 35 minutes, but no, it's going to be a whole hour. So my estimated time of arrival was going to be just before 11 a.m., which would be great. Get time to park, go talk to all my friends in sales, see what's going on at the radio station, start doing my show prep for the John Phillips Show. Then, all of a sudden, as I'm getting up to Skirball, the ETA starts climbing. And not gradually. It's not like, it went from 10:59 to 11:03. No, the ETA all of a sudden, and I had to do a double take, went from you'll be there at 11 to you'll be there at 12:30, which didn't really work for me because, I have to be there. Otherwise, Johnny has no way to talk to you because I'm the one who has to put him on the air. I mean, somebody could probably do it. Believe you me, somebody could. But I was starting to panic, like, what is going on here? I opened up Google Maps to see, are they seeing the same thing? What is this? It's not even telling me what's going on. How could I be sitting here for another hour and a half? That doesn't work for me. Then I start seeing all of the, hey, why don't you get off on Sepulveda? I'm sure it'll be better. But isn't everybody also doing that? It eventually cleared up. It was an accident. And I got to the radio station about 10 minutes later than I did, but it definitely gave me a little panic. And it's one of those irritations of a city, of a county with so many people. One accident can ruin the commute for everybody. It doesn't help that so many people are just terrible drivers. On the way home, most of the time these days decide to take the 101 instead of the 405 once I get to that split. And I always make sure I am in the correct lane very early on. Every once in a while, you get somebody that wants to play last minute chicken and move into a lane that is not moving and blocking the lane that they're in. And that's what happened today as I was trying to get to the 101, but the person in front of me had decided to completely stop all the traffic behind him because he wants to sneak onto the 405, which is completely stopped. So that was fun. And it made me think, wait a second, why is traffic still so bad? We've had so many solutions to solve it over the years, including a year ago. There was a huge initiative. It was going to take cars off the road. I think you remember it. We covered it here on this show. You remember when the California Air Resources Board, the board that regulates things like cap and trade fees, which contribute to your gas prices, the same fees that are going towards California's high-speed rail, they came out with a program, an idea. And this idea was going to take so many cars off the road. What was it? It was discounts and rebates for e-bikes, electronic bicycles, electric bicycles, a motorcycle by any other means, but the electric bicycles. This program ended up getting discontinued with the budget deficit, but for quite a while, the California Air Resources Board was going to give you thousands of dollars to ditch your car and get into an electric bike. But a funny thing happened. There were many people that took California up on this program. In fact, the program did run out of money. But I don't think it took any cars off the road because the intended audience for e-bikes is not adults commuting from one side of Los Angeles County to another or commuting from Orange County to Los Angeles County. If there's somebody out there that does that, phone lines are open. Love to hear from you. But the target audience of e-bikes happen to be teenagers. Teenagers who may not have had cars to begin with. Because as what I've heard is that teenagers want to drive later and later and really put that off because it's such a burden. Plus with ride shares and Waymos, there's going to be a whole generation of kids that might never need to own a car. It's a very interesting time. But that's right. The e-bike rebate program, it went to a bunch of parents who got discounts on something they were buying their teenagers. And we have seen the rise in teens on e-bikes in places like Orange County and Hermosa Beach, where some of them get a little rowdy. Some of them get a little out of control. And even though some of these bikes are supposed to have very, very, very strict speed limits, as in they can only go about 20 miles an hour, there are a lot of YouTube and TikTok videos that show people how to change that. And change it significantly. And tune up and speed up your e-bike so it can go as fast as a motorcycle. Have you ever been on one of these things? I did once. My neighbor has one. And after a night of a couple of cocktails, he wanted to show us the e-bike and have it go around the neighborhood. And, you know, as a kid, I grew up riding dirt bikes, you know, little motorcycles, little ATVs. Never was really into street legal. I'm scared to death of that. More power to you if that's your thing. But, you know, there's a lot of safety and a lot of things you have to go through if you're going to be a motorcycle rider. That it's a little different than if you're a bicycle rider. But as soon as I got on my neighbor's e-bike and I throttled the handlebar, it took off faster than any motorcycle I had ever been on. So these things can be quite dangerous. And the intended audience is people who are not so good at thinking clearly, teenagers. And that is why in one city in California, there is now a discussion to be had. Is it time to place an age limit on e-bikes? Is it time to make sure that the only people riding these things are old enough to be responsible with them? Because, you know, you start riding a bicycle at what, 5 years old? Probably start riding it on your own if kids are allowed to do that these days, around 10, 11. You know, someone who grew up in Santa Clarita Valley, myself, a beautiful master plan community where there are paseos where you can walk and bike almost everywhere, get from one side of the city to the other. Even in a place like that, I still made some pretty boneheaded decisions on a bicycle, including, and I'll always remember this, I, with my brother, were taking a bicycle so we could get to Best Buy on the complete other side of town because we wanted to see if they had a Nintendo 64 game called Yoshi's Story. And we called about it every single day. We really wanted to play it. Turns out to be a major disappointment because it was nothing like the prequel SNES Yoshi's Island. That's another story for another day. But we're getting to the intersection at, I think it's McBean and the Old Road. It's Bouquet Canyon and the Old Road, where the Kmart used to be. And you got to cross that to get over what was then the new part of town where the Best Buy was. And it was probably one of the biggest intersections in all of Santa Clarita. And I'm on one side of the street, and the road to the Best Buy is on the other side of the street. But the corner that I'm on did not have a crosswalk. Do you think that stopped me? It did not. And somebody almost crashed into us. And apparently, based on pedestrian laws, it still would have been his fault. I very, very distinctly will always remember that loud honking noise as I tried to bicycle to the Best Buy at the age of, I had to be like 12 or 13. Anyway, I don't know if it's the right idea to be allowing 12, 13, 14-year-olds to be on something that is way more dangerous than a typical bicycle. So let's find out what is being proposed in Carlsbad and see if we want that proposed in your neck of the woods. Here's a report from NBC7 in San Diego.
This week, Carlsbad city leaders discussing an ordinance that would place an age limit for e-bike riders. NBC7's Jeanette Quesada explains why it's being considered.
Right now, the city of Carlsbad has no age limit when it comes to what age you have to be in order to ride an e-bike. But coming this Tuesday, city council members will gather here at council chambers to discuss an ordinance that would set an age limit to 12 years old.
So if you're 10, no e-biking for you. Now, there's something you always have to think about this when it comes to banning anything. How is this going to be enforced? Law enforcement in places like Los Angeles and San Diego and Carlsbad, well, they're all stretched a little thin. Traffic enforcement isn't nearly a thing the way it used to be. How are we going to police making sure? Because typically 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds aren't carrying an ID with their birthday. So how are you going to enforce this? And they're not the ones buying the e-bikes, obviously. It's the parents who are buying the e-bikes, thanks to our very generous e-bike rebate program.
These kids that are riding on the streets, they're taking part in traffic. They're subject to traffic laws.
Salomon Rastegar owns an e-bike. And
yeah, it's not like these things are ridden on the sidewalk. These things are ridden on city streets. And sure, some of them have bike lanes, but a lot of them don't.
Rides his bike to work. He says he often sees kids on e-bikes.
There's the one guy, by the way, who rides his bike to work, which I used to do. This is true. When I was at a period in my life of minimal employment, and I was working in an office one day a week. This is that gap year in between when I left KFI and I came here to KABC. And I had a lot of free time. And I really got into bicycling. And I had lost a whole bunch of weight. I'm actually at the same weight I was then now. It's exciting. And I would, with the bike paths, the ones that go along the stinking LA River, go from Valley Village to Encino. And it was a lot of fun. Except for everyone around me who had to sit next to my sweaty butt.
E-bikes riding unsafely.
When they change lanes, for example, going from the bike lane, which is on the right side, turning left, they usually swerve across 2-3 lanes of traffic.
And I don't think they have traffic signals. There's no blinkers on an e-bike.
Without looking, for example. That sense of judgment isn't there.
Earlier this year, AB 2234 passed, allowing cities in unincorporated areas in San Diego County to establish a minimum age for riding e-bikes. The new law applies to only the class of bikes that go 20 miles per hour. As a result, Tuesday, the Carlsbad City Council will consider approving their Traffic and Safety Mobility Commission's recommendation that kids 12 and younger not be allowed to ride e-bikes. A move that gives residents like Thursa Haim some peace of mind.
And I understand why they love the e-bikes, but they are often, riding them without helmets.
There's another thing that's not really enforced. Helmet laws.
See them breaking traffic laws. A lot of them are so young they don't understand the traffic laws.
And if you look at my helmet, it's just a regular bike helmets.
Yeah, and regular bike helmets aren't like motorcycle helmets. They're not really meant to withstand an impact when you're going as fast as the kids are going on the e-bikes.
As an e-bike enthusiast, Rastigar understands the allure. But as a doctor who's treated patients injured on e-bikes, he wishes the minimum age for riding e-bikes would be 16 years old and require teens to be licensed before getting behind the handlebars.
Now, that might be a little going too far. It might be a little draconian, but I don't know. These things are practically motorcycles, except for the fact that it's the difference between my electric car and a gas-powered car. Because these things, if tuned up properly, and most of the kids know how to do that, can go as fast as a motorcycle, and they are sharing the road with cars and motorcycles. Does it make sense to treat them as motorcycles where you have to get a specific license to drive one, and you have to be old enough to take a test for it?
I do recall not too long ago a 15, 16-year-old patient who I saw with the aftermath of a skull fracture, crashed on his e-bike.
Regina doesn't allow her 11-year-old daughter to ride an e-bike because she's seen the dangers firsthand.
It was 2 years ago when the car hit the mom with the baby. Baby was about 2 or 3 years old, and unfortunately, mom passed away.
NBC7 reached out to the city of Carlsbad for comment and is awaiting a response. Junet Quesada, NBC7.
And Carlsbad police say in the past 3 years, they've issued more than 180 e-bike citations and 230 warnings for violations. Those violations include running red lights, failing to stop at stop signs, riding on sidewalks, and engaging in dangerous riding behavior.
It's something I remember from when I was an avid bicyclist, which I'm not anymore. I had about a year, 2, 3 flirtation with riding bicycles in Los Angeles, but after having my tires popped on the LA River bike path because it's full of broken glass, after hearing stories of friends who got mugged on the LA River bike path, and after being hit by a car as I was riding my bicycle from Valley Village to Encino. And I'll be honest, I probably wasn't paying that much attention, but I was crossing a small street. I was in front of a car and they just decided to hit gas. I ended up on his hood and I was a little stoned, so I was like not making a big deal of it. And I was like, oh, my bike seems fine. And then as I peel away, I can start to see the tire wobble like it's in a cartoon, and it did not work anymore. So there's a lot of reasons why I don't ride a bicycle anymore, and I really think it's unsafe. But I also remember from those days how bicyclists do not obey rules of the road. And especially teenage ones, they're not obeying the rules of the road. But this is what's being proposed in Carlsbad. They're going to be voting on it tomorrow. You've probably seen a lot of these things in your neighborhood. Maybe your family has them. What do you think? I'm opening up the phones right now. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Should there be an age limit for e-bike riders? Should preteens be allowed to be riding these very dangerous devices? 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Do you think we should be banning kids from riding e-bikes in California? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Is it time to put an age limit on e-bikes? Let me know. Give me a call right now. 800-222-5222. We're going to take your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The city of Carlsbad is considering an ordinance that would put an age limit on who can ride electric bicycles. E-bikes. Right now, any kid, any age can ride these things, and as dangerous as they are, some people are calling for it to be, you have to be at least 12. Some people say you should be 16 and get a license. What say you? Should there be an age limit for e-bikes? 800-222-5222. Let's start with Joseph in Manhattan Beach. Joseph, hello.
Hi. Yeah, absolutely 16. I've seen elementary school kids flying down the street on e-bikes. I've seen three elementary school kids on one e-bike. In a car, if you're 16, you're not allowed to drive with multiple teens in the car. And yet they let people do whatever they want with e-bikes.
Restrictions. There are you got to have the learner's permit. You can't have, I think we have to have an adult supervising you. And for this, which now you have no armor like you do in a car, but it can go as fast as a car, you got nothing.
And what they found is the injuries on e-bikes are more like motorcycles. They're getting organ damage. I mean, it's really bad. Or if you're like, when I was a kid, I remember riding a bike one-handed with books under one arm, and I hit a bump, lunged forward and turned the wheel. I went flying over the handlebars. I was in bed for a month because I had a huge cut in my leg. And that was from a regular bicycle. Imagine an e-bike where you're doing 45, 50 miles an hour. It's crazy.
No, it's wild.
I refuse to let my kid have one.
I think a lot of people are thinking maybe there should be an age limit. And if I had kids, I don't know if I'd get one for them. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. And it's not like they can buy them themselves because they're incredibly expensive. Unless, of course, they participated in the California e-bike rebate program paid for by your tax dollars. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We're getting right back to your calls. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The city of Carlsbad is considering a new ordinance for e-bikes, putting an age limit on them. Do you think there should be an age limit for the kids riding e-bikes? Should they be at least 12? Should they be at least 16? Should they have to be licensed? What say you? Get on the phone right now. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay there. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Search for Randy Wang Radio. You can see all the videos that I posted of myself doing a tequila luge at my favorite steakhouse, Market Steer Steakhouse in Santa Fe. It's where you take a bone marrow bone after you've eaten the bone marrow with the Texas toast and the jardinera, and you pour a shot of tequila down it. It's pretty fun. Let's get to the phones. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. City of Carlsbad considering an age limit for e-bikes. What say you? Let's go to Dale in Culver City. Dale, hello.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for taking my call. You know what? I definitely think they should be somewhere around 15 or so. I got my motorcycle learner's permit when I was 15 and a half. And when I went to high school in North Long Beach, you had to take driver's ed and that kind of stuff. So it was a long time ago, you know. But I rode my motorcycle to school, and it was a dirt bike, kind of like what you rode. But I had to have a learner's permit to do it. So I'm staying in North Redondo and Torrance area, and the kids here are just out of control. They are driving like really fast. I see them doing wheelies all over the place, and they're in the traffic lanes. They're not like along the curb. They're just driving crazy. And most of them, you know, not all of them are crazy, but I mean, it's really dangerous, especially when you're in a lane with a car. Like if I run over a kid on a motorcycle, on a bicycle, that would be tragic for everybody.
No, you're totally right about that. These things are dangerous, and there's no real things you have to learn to be able to ride them. You can just have them, and they're way more like a motorcycle than they're like a bicycle. Thanks so much for the call, Dale. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's go to Kieran in Pasadena. Kieran, hello.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I have a business in Pasadena, design molding, and it's about the front of it is about 70 feet long. It's a sidewalk, and these people come flying by, young people on their e-bikes going like, and it only takes like 1 second for them to fly by. and we open the door and we take moldings out, and we get hit by these people, and they crash into us. I had one guy on a bicycle crash into my window at my shop several years ago and sued me for $750,000. And it wasn't my fault. But he only got 28,000. So, but it's crazy. These people are just out of control, and they need even older people. I've seen people at ages 30 flying by on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is no place to be flying by on one of these e-bikes because they're going really, really fast. And even the skateboards. So it was really tough, and that's the end of my story.
That's a lot to deal with. I got to imagine how frustrating that is. Thanks for the call, Kieran. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's go to Josie in Palos Verdes. Josie, hello.
Hey, Randy. How you doing?
Doing great.
I love you guys so much, but I agree with every caller. These kids are a menace. It's the wheelies and everything. One of these kids is going to get killed. I don't know how this is allowed. My kids are 14 and 12. They have to get a permit to drive a car. But the kids on these things are just out of control, and something has to be done about it. You have to take a permit test. You have to wear a helmet that is like for a motorcycle rider, everything, because it's just out of control, Randy. And I love you so much.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Josie. Appreciate it. It is fascinating that we are getting to a point where the technology is emerging faster than there's any possibility to regulate. This has been true with the internet for a very long time, but it didn't take long for the engineers to figure out how to put a tiny little electric car motor inside a bicycle, and for those things to get pretty widely distributed if you can afford one, or, get that rebate with the state of California to take cars off the road. But even though we've decided we want more of these things, the state has encouraged more of these things, we have not thought about how dangerous they can be and who's riding them. And these injuries, you've seen these stories. There is a big difference between falling off a bicycle at 10 miles an hour as opposed to 30 or 40 or 50 miles an hour. Let's go to Phil in Newport Beach. Phil, hello.
Hey, Randy, thanks. Hey, listen, I'm 71 years old. I've cycled over 200,000 miles in my life, bicycles. So I know a lot about bicycles. But here's the thing. 16 isn't old enough. I've seen these kids come out of nowhere. And in this overregulated state where they regulate everything, they don't regulate e-bikes in this kind of situation is ridiculous. They're dangerous. They all need to be wearing helmets for sure. They need to have all types of training to learn how to control their emotions when they bicycle. And there's no question in my mind they've got to be licensed and at least 16 years old. So take it from there. Thanks, Randy.
Well, you're the expert in this one, so I will take it from there. Thanks so much for the call, Phil. Appreciate it. Yeah, the fact that they're practically a motorcycle and you don't need any kind of license. I mean, again, I'm saying this in a perfect world, we would have this regulation, but I have no idea how it would be enforced. Let's go to Julie in Whittier. Julie, hello.
Hi, Randy. My opinion is the same with everyone else that's calling. They should be 16. They should have to take a class, and they have to have the safety equipment. It's ridiculous that we would permit this for children. I mean, you can't have somebody in the back of a pickup truck anymore. So, but you're going to let these kids strap on and control this device by themselves. It's really a recipe for disaster. But I also have to say, I think the other issue might be that we're so in love with motorized vehicles is these little tiny 3- and 4-year-old kids and the parents buy them the little motorized car, the little Mercedes, the little Jeep, and they're, up and down the sidewalk. But the other day I pulled into my cul-de-sac and this little 3-year-old was riding this little tiny Mercedes in the middle of the street. And he's so low to the ground, had it been dusk, I would not have seen him. And it would have been my fault, of course.
Where's
But
mom
gee
and
whiz,
dad
you
with
know?
that one? Come on. Those things, those things worked a lot better when they didn't have a whole lot of range or the parents were the ones that were driving it. But yeah, I see those things all over the place in my neighborhood too. But you got to have full own supervision. Thanks so much for the call, Julie. Appreciate it. Let's go to Mark in San Diego. Mark, hello.
Hi. Ditto everybody, but what I want to add right now is the danger zone, because I do have a friend that was hit by one of these things in his wheelchair, and he didn't have really much of a recourse. So they need to be licensed and registered. The parents are going to have to be responsible for that. Now, my 15-year-old has a friend who parks us on the side, and I'm like, you're not going to get on that thing. I had a mini bike. I had a helmet. I had a license. When I was 16, you had to get a special motorcycle endorsement to ride it. There's no way they're learning how to ride these things. And they're hurting people. This is wrong. This is wrong. They need to shut it down. For anybody under 16 without training and a license.
I think you make a really strong point, Mark. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay there. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones on if we should have an age limit for e-bikes. Let's go to Wayne in Whittier. Wayne, hello.
Hello. My suggestion is require not only the safety equipment and the training, but also licensing and insurance. And if they have to have insurance, mom and dad are going to be the ones paying the bill. And the insurance companies understand risk. And when they start paying the bill, especially for a risk-taking youth, they're going to start getting involved and putting the brakes on things.
That's a really, really, really good point. I got to imagine the reason that we aren't seeing insurance being talked about when it comes to e-bikes, even though they are dangerous and have caused great bodily harm and great injury, is that the e-bike lobby, which does exist, knows that that would put them out of business. Thank you so much for the call, Wayne. Appreciate it. Let's go to Rick in Santa Monica. Rick, hello.
Hey, I remember the 50s through the 70s. I was a 70s kid. Like 90% of everybody had a bicycle. We were all over the place. The more licensing and registrations and laws we have, the more problems, injuries that we have. I say it's natural selection. You ride at your own risk. If you don't look around, even if you think this is the problem, people think they have the right of way. Well, we were taught that the right of way doesn't help if you're dead. So you looked around, you didn't get into accidents, ride at your own risk. And if anybody got into trouble and it was their fault, everyone had homeowners insurance if they had a house. And guess what? You got sent to military school, at least for the summer. So less laws, but we got to make people responsible. The problem is that all these laws and licensing and stuff, we expect people to have common sense and courtesy, and they don't. So, all these laws and licensing are not going to help. We got to go back to the ways, 50s through the 70s. There were so few of these accidents and injuries, and now they're a daily thing. And I say natural selection. Natural selection is what we got to go back to.
Yeah, I'd feel bad, though, if you're the pedestrian that gets hit by one of these because you weren't doing anything with an e-bike, but you became the victim of natural selection. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Okay, I've got something exciting for you. This is pretty cool. I give away a lot of tickets on this show. How rare is this? Do I get to give away something that I want to go see so badly? But this is great. The original artist, the person that I first looked up to as a musician, and this will make sense if you know me. 790 KABC welcomes Weird Al Yankovic, the Bigger and Weirder 2026 tour at the Acrisure Arena on September 13th, 2026. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-222 gets a parent tickets to Weird Al. I love it. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. If you're on hold, stay there. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Back to the phones we go. Molly in Redondo Beach. Molly, hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm in the younger generation of all these e-bikers, and honestly, I feel like if you have to think twice about it, don't do it. And I think that these kids, they need to go, and if they want an e-bike, they can go get a job. They can get the responsibility to save up the money, go buy their e-bike. And I think that safety lessons need to be introduced through the police department. Police department needs to get involved, but show a positive enforcement to these kids so they have respect to the community, servicemen, everything. And I feel that there needs to be driver license plates on e-bikes. So, for example, say if a kid is, gets pulled over, the cop can, run the plates, and the plates will have the date of birth of the child's information on there. Also, I feel that the teenagers need to have a license, and if they do not have or carry their license on them, then they will get ticketed, and that is up to them to pay for their ticket. The fine should start up at $300. And if they do not pay the ticket within the next 90 days, then their e-bike will get impounded, and they have to pay for the impoundation for them to get the e-bike. And I feel like they have 3 strikes. And if you screw up 3 strikes with not following the laws, then there's suspension of 5 years, just like you have a suspension of DUI driving. And I think that they should have all helmets and safety precautions, because riding an e-bike, yes, it is dangerous. And yeah, I think take responsibility for your actions. I'm a younger generation, and I had to learn how to responsibility on my actions. Life isn't fair.
Yeah, you did. And you have really thought this through, Molly. Wow, you've thought about every aspect of this. I think we need you in Sacramento writing these laws. I love it. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Last word on this, George in Newport Beach. George, hello.
Hello, how you doing? I really appreciate that you are finally addressing the e-holes on these bikes, but they're also on the scooters, the bongo boards. I don't care if they're 12 or they're 35 and they got that stupid thing with the wheel between their legs. They shoot past you when you're walking your dog. It's like 40 miles an hour, a foot and a half from you. The whole thing boils down to they had no proper parental upbringing. And they do the same thing when they're driving Teslas. They act like they own the world and they're saving it when they're delusional, and they follow no traffic rules whatsoever. And
I will attest to that. I have seen quite a few Tesla drivers be the most impatient people on the road, which they shouldn't be, because the car is supposed to drive for you. Thanks so much for the call, George. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for all the calls, everyone. Make sure subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out the video I made this morning. Top 10 margaritas in Santa Fe. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.